Hi everyone. So recently I reached Grandmaster in Marvel Rivals by playing Storm in the last stretch of my climb, and here are 6 tips to help you slay on Storm. Tip number 1 is going to be a very underrated tip, but it will easily be the most important tip you will hear, and that is to play around your E. For those that don't know, Storm has a passive that gives her a speed boost to her team or damage amplification, and her E just makes it a stronger version of that. Now with your E, if you're in damage amplification form, you can actually do damage with your E to nearby enemies. You actually do 45 damage per tick up to a maximum of 180 damage, which is quite a significant amount considering that this is an AoE ability and you could potentially hit 6 people with this. Now this is such an important ability for Storm to play around because this is how you actually farm your ultimate. Ideally, you'd want to be positioning yourself in a way such that your E will be hitting quite a few targets whilst also staying safe yourself. If your E is hitting multiple people, you could easily get around 20% just from this one ability. Here's a clip of me trying to farm my ultimate for the overtime. I had to touch a point because some of my team were still dead and in respawn, so I didn't have the luxury to just stand back and play safe hitting my shots. I needed to get in there while staying alive, so rather than being in the face auto-attacking, I decided to play a little bit more safe and wait for my E cooldown, which then would help me get my ultimate because I was in a big cluster of enemies. You can also see that my E was damaging the enemy mantis, which helped me get the final blow. Now you don't always have to use your E for AoE scenarios. Your E ability is extremely important in 1v1 scenarios. In fact, if you're going to be 1v1ing anyone such as Iron Man, you're going to need your E. You will not win without your E. I'm going to show you a few clips of me 1v1ing a few other duelists, and you'll notice that I have my E saved always just for them. By the way, if possible, you want to start off with one auto attack before using your E, just so you can take advantage of animation cancelling and weave in a bit more damage. Now for the speed boost, I actually don't use a speed boost all that often. I only ever use it if I really need to get back to the point quickly, or if I'm trying to escape from someone. You're actually just better off using your damage amplification for the most part. So just to repeat myself, play around your E. Your E ability is very important, but also very underrated. Tip number 2 is to play on the ground for the majority of the time. Storm is a little bit of a weird one where she is this flying character and you'd think that you'd want to be in the air, but you actually don't. You're actually better playing around your team on the ground. There are quite a few reasons for this. Number 1, Storm has a piercing auto attack, so when you're on the ground you would actually have a better chance at lining up your shots to hit multiple people rather than from above where the angling will be quite awkward. Number 2 is that you'll be able to play around your Vanguards who hopefully will be blocking some damage for you. If you have Vanguards such as Doctor Strange or Magneto on your team, playing behind this shield will definitely save you a lot of damage. The third reason to play on the ground is that you'll be able to play around your team and therefore be able to give your damage amplification or speed boost to your team. Like I said before, I mostly stay on damage boost, and so for the specific numbers, you give yourself 16% damage boost and your allies 8%. When you use your E to amplify the boost, you give yourself 30% damage boost and your allies 12%. This might not seem like a significant amount, however, when it comes to tanking, tanks usually like to calculate how much damage they can take before backing out, and with Storm's E giving your team a big boost of damage, it can catch enemy tanks off guard and you can burst them down because they're overextending. As fun as it is to utilize Storm's flying to be in the sky, it's actually a lot more better for you to stay on the ground for the most part. Tip number 3 is to make some sneaky flanks because you make no sound. One great thing about Storm being able to fly is that you actually make no sound with her. That is unless you use your shift ability, which toggles your damage amp and speed boost. That does make sound, so if you're gonna sneak up on someone, do not use your shift ability or do not toggle your damage amp / speed boost. Do that way before you even get close to them. Being able to make some picks will require some game sense and some awareness. I did say for the most part you want to play on the ground and play with your team. However, sometimes some enemies will be off on the side and you can get a sneaky pick on them if you play correctly. Tip number 4 is to just shoot the Vanguards or tanks. tanks. Now, a lot of people think that Storm doesn't do a lot of damage, and she most definitely doesn't compared to a lot of the other duelists. However, her damage is still fine enough for you to chip away at tanks. Hitting tanks is a reliable way of farming your ult charge, and as you all know, Storm's ultimate is quite powerful. And with your damage amp, if you're using your E, you can actually shred through tanks pretty easily with the help of your team. Some tanks are a lot more easier to farm off on than others, such as Dora and Penny Parker, who do not have any shields. Even Groot is a good tank for you to hit because you can fly over his walls. You might have noticed a little bit of a pattern with my tips, and that is farming your ultimate is very important, and hitting tanks is a reliable way of doing that. By the way, you don't have to worry so much about the enemy Lunar Snow or Mantis countering your ult, because at the end of the day, if you're trading your ult for their ult, that gives your team an opportunity to use their ultimates and hopefully get some kills. If you don't trust your team for that, you can always hold off on using your own ult and just wait for the enemy support to waste their ults. You can also sometimes out damage Mantis or Lunar ultimate with the help of your team, and generally with Lunar Snow or Mantis, when they ult, they like to stick with the team, and sometimes they can ditch their backline, and so that gives you a perfect opportunity to pick off the people in the back that aren't getting healed by Mantis or Lunar ult. Tip number 5 is to play around your corners. As a lot of you might have already noticed, Storm is a very vulnerable character that can get gunned down pretty easily, and sometimes you're not going to be around your tanks to get some cover, so you're going to have to position well around corners. As you saw in this clip, Iron Man was lasering me down, and had I been in the open, I most definitely would have died to him. Playing around corners will open up a lot of opportunities for you to save damage and even save your life, and it will also help a lot with doing damage, creating pressure, and getting picks. Now for tip number 6, this one is going to be a very obvious one, but it's going to be very important still, and that is to just have better aim. All these other tips of using your E, playing around corners, playing on the ground, all of that is not going to mean anything if you're not landing your shots. Like I said before, this is a very obvious tip that a lot of other characters need to do as well. All characters will benefit from having better aim and landing the shots. However, when it comes to Storm, her basic fire are projectiles and are harder to land compared to things such as hit scan. And with that comes the possibility of using that as an excuse for not landing your shots. Yes, Storm's basic fire are projectiles and a lot more harder to land. However, that is not an excuse to not be able to aim or land your shots. Practice your Storm aiming in the training grounds if you must, or in a quick play or whatever. At the end of the day, if you're not landing your basic fire, you are not being useful on Storm. Let's just say that I know the demographic that Storm appeals to, and that demographic tends to have a mindset of not wanting to improve their aim. And I promise you, that is not me throwing shade, that is just me making an observation. So those are all the tips I have for you to help you with your Storm gameplay. Creating this guide did take some time and effort, so it would be greatly appreciated if you could give this video a like, even subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this type of content. Also, commenting down below will greatly help the algorithm. If you don't know what to comment, you can just comment Storm. And with all that being said, I hope you give all these tips a try in your games, and hopefully it helps you climb with Storm. If you do have success with these tips, come back and comment down below about them. Anyways, I hope you all have a lovely day or night. Bye bye.